Howdy doody, guys, this one is going to be amazing today. So we are looking at the John Lucero, manufactured by Santa Cruz, emergency cross deck. This is my buddy's, and it is a beauty. Phil also has the Tony Hawk, so if you go back to my other videos, you'll see that I did the OG versus the reissue, and that was Phil's deck as well. So Phil somehow managed to keep his hands on his OG decks from back in the day, his original decks. And I don't know how he did it, and they're pretty friggin' sweet. So this one, I was at his place last night, and I grabbed it and said, I need to borrow this thing so I can show you guys how amazing this thing is, and it's still in really good shape. I love that old school graphic setup. I mean, we were probably sitting in his living room getting screamed at by his parents, cutting this stuff up, you know, putting it on there. No, we were good kids. We never got screamed at. But anyways, yeah, we can see there. So on the top, we see that, John Lucero element that we still see in his Black Label brand as well. So we see it down here, which is so killer. Again, I just love the simplicity of this logo. You guys aren't seeing the mirror version. This actually says Lucero backwards. And we see that on some of his other Black Label decks as well, is that he uses that similar style of font where for whatever reason, he's using that kind of mirror image version of it. That looks pretty sick, but yeah, if you guys are wondering, if you're already noticing these Indy 169 trucks and that these wheels do not look OG, you're absolutely right, because these are the 2008 reissue wrap bones, and these are the Stage 11 Indy 169 trucks. They actually came off my Lance Mountain deck, the Series 5. So when Powell puts out the initial Bones Brigade run, they're limited, and then if there's any blems, they package them in a complete and push them out the door. So these trucks and wheels and bearings actually came off of that deck. So that is a blem, but Phil was looking for some trucks and wheels, and so I gave them to him so he could put this thing together. And if you notice here, we're also missing the rail. So with skateboards, there was a time that it was really cool to have plastic all over your deck, and then it wasn't cool. And so everybody was ripping off their plastic and throwing out their plastic and their rat nuts and everything else, and that's what happened here. So Phil no longer has his, looks like had some Schmidt-stick rails on there, and got rid of the rat nuts. We did manage to find some NOS Schmidt-stick rails, and they line up perfectly. They're nice, fat, white ones. They'll look killer on here, but he needs the rat nuts. So if you guys have any insight as to where we can get some rat nuts, that would be amazing to get this thing dressed up properly again and back to its original goodness. And those NOS rails will look sick on here. So again, yeah, the trucks and wheels need to go. So we originally had, in 1987, I was in South Carolina and down there visiting my relatives, and managed to get my hands on some, I think they were 169 Thunder. They were black, and they had the lizard on one side and the skeleton on the other. They're kind of hard to find now as far as the trucks. I think Phil still has them, and that's what he originally had on here. I might actually try to get them from him and then do a video to show you guys, because they are really rad trucks. And if you guys skated Thunders and you know these trucks, then it'll be a good memory for you guys on those. But I'll see what I can do as far as finding those trucks and maybe doing a quick little video on them for you. As far as the specs on this thing, it's hard to find specs on these OG decks. And so I did my best. I looked around. What I found mostly was it's a 10x30. When I did my own measuring of it, I found that the widest point is about 10.25 inches. As far as length, again, given the fact that the tail is ripped up a little bit here, it is pretty close to 30 inches. As far as the other specs, again, just based on rough estimates for me, it was about 3 inches for the nose, about 6 to 6.25 inches for the tail, and the wheelbase was about 15 to 15.25 for the wheelbase. And those are just rough specs, but really rad deck. The concave is what you would expect from, a 1980s deck. Now this is 88, so even getting into 89, it's noticeably different. The concave gets quite a bit more aggressive, and you actually have some noses and stuff, which is pretty cool. But this one is definitely more 80s, so if you love the steeper concaves, more aggressive concaves, this is not the deck for you. If you're like me and we kind of just love bombing on these things, the flatter concave, then you would absolutely love this, and it'll take you back, that's for sure. So just looking at some of these other stickers, because I love these OG setups. So we obviously have the Vision Streetwear. We have the Indy logo there, and then we have the Screamin' Santa Cruz hand on the bottom here, the Screamin' hand. Again, for the top brand, it's just the elephant that's on top. It's hard to see. Does it say? Yeah, I think it says just Lucero there. It's going to be hard for you guys to see. What I'll do is maybe put some other, if I can find some other images, I'll put them up here so you guys can see just what that logo looks like a little bit better for the top graphic. And then also where it says Santa Cruz, manufactured by Santa Cruz underneath. So the story for John, and I kind of think, when I think of John Lucero, I kind of think of him like Lance, where they both really just love skating and hanging out with guys, and they managed to make businesses out of it, which I think is absolutely amazing. So John, he just loves skating, loved hanging out with his buddies, and that's what they did. And so he skated with Veriflex, did some time with Madrid, spent some time with Schmidt Sticks, and then in '88, he started up Lucero Limited, and it was independent, and then he did some partnering with Rocco, and they had like a primetime distribution where they actually put out a red cross with primetime. I guess the decks themselves weren't that good, and so John opted to go off on his own and started Lucero Limited, and he used Santa Cruz from a manufacturing standpoint. And so this is the Santa Cruz version of it. What I'll do is I'm pulling that information somewhere online. I'm definitely not an expert with all of this stuff, guys. I have to go online, you know, dig in, see what I can find, and then I try my best to convey it to you guys. So if you guys have additional information, that's why I love the comments. I'm using the comments to engage with you guys, to glean knowledge from you so that we can all benefit from it. So please, if you have more insights on these decks or any of the decks I'm showing and the history associated with it, trucks, wheels, whatever, just throw it in there because I appreciate your knowledge and everybody else does when you're commenting. So please put it in there. But yeah, so this one was from '88 and it is manufactured by Santa Cruz. And then in '91 is when he pivoted over to Black Label. And it is alcohol related. I'm going to post a video at the end of this, and you guys will be able to kind of, if you watch it, which I would encourage you to do, it's John Lucero just kind of talking about his, you know, career with skateboarding, his transitions between the companies, his artwork. It's a really good video. So I would encourage you to watch that. I'll also put a link to just kind of like a blog post on John and some of the transitions and stuff he did, just talking about the different decks and companies he was associated with. That's where I've gleaned a lot of this information, to be honest. All right, so I don't know what else to talk about here, guys, other than this is such a sick deck. So many good memories here. This red stain, I love the stains, the natty edges. It's just so beautiful, a thing of beauty. I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, I was going to say too, so along with the rails, you can see here, if you look close, he had one of the cell block 3 risers, which we used a lot, which is this one, right? And so we used a lot back in the 80s. So sick. I'm stoked that I actually still have this one here, but that would have fit on just something similar to that, which would have been pretty cool. So yeah, maybe we should find him a cell block 3 riser as well, so we can get the rails on there and the cell block 3 and get it back to that OG goodness. Anyways, guys, I'm going to bounce. Thanks so much for the follows, for those subs, for the likes, for the comments. Please do leave the comments. And once again, if you have any advice as to where we can locate the rat nuts, it would be greatly appreciated. Peace out. Enjoy the week, guys. Be profitable. Cheers.